Hey everyone, Andrea here. Welcome back to Karcher Makes. This is a place where I like to share all the things I'm working on. That is almost always knitting, but sometimes it's crochet, weaving, sewing. If it's crafty, I love it, and I hope you love it here too. Let's just get into this. It's been a little bit since my last regular sit-down upload, and I will just say right now, I have zero finished objects. I have not finished anything in a month, but I've cast on lots of new projects to make up for it, and that's what this episode's going to be about today. All about the whips. And there's quite a few of them. So before we get into the projects, I just want to say thank you to everyone who reached out and asked, hey, you guys okay? You haven't uploaded in a while. We're fine. We have just had packed, busy weekends for the past probably month. So things have finally kind of calmed down here, and we can talk a little bit more about that in the life stuff section. But we're all good. Everybody's fine. But thank you for asking, and hope you enjoy catching up with me today and all of these whips. So I'm going to start with a whip that you've seen several times at this point. It is still going. It is not finished yet. And the next time that I tell you that I want to cast on a fingering weight cardigan, please stop me. Please talk me out of it. Hold me accountable. I love how this is turning out, but it is just taking a very long time because I'm a very slow knitter. So what is it? It is my Bubble Cardigan by Stephen West. And the yarn that I'm using for this is the 2024 Advent by Frogget Yarns. The theme was Watercolor Winter, and it is 25 mini skeins of just this kind of gradient rainbow that is beautiful, and it is perfect for this pattern. Now, I think the last time you saw this, I was still here on the body, but I've since finished the first sleeve, and I like marking my decreases for sleeves. That's the only time that I will mark decreases is in a sleeve. I know a lot of folks use them for socks and stuff. I can't be bothered with that. But the one thing with this pattern is that it is very oversized, and even though I didn't want really large sleeves at the shoulder, even with me slightly modifying the stitch counts, they are still pretty big, and it is what it is at this point. It's fine. I'm still gonna wear it. I still love it, but I really wish that it was slightly more form-fitting in this upper arm area. But all in all, this is coming out beautifully. I've completed the body, the bottom hem, and also this pattern calls for crazy long bottom ribbing and cuffs and the pickup for around the collar. I couldn't be bothered with that. I did 20 rows for the bottom hemming, and then I did 20 rows for the cuff, and it's fine. I like how it fits. It's great. I did just start the pickup for the second sleeve, and I got a few rows done, and I was working on this last night, and I ended up having to rip back an entire section because I completely forgot to do the bobble stitch pattern. I was watching something on TV and was really into it and totally not paying attention, so I had to do some ripping back here, but it's slowly going on its way. I'm really motivated to finish this as soon as possible because there's a lot of new things I want to cast on, and there's a lot of new things that I did cast on that I want to get working on. So there is the progress on the Bubble Cardigan by Stephen West. So next up, and of course there's like yarn everywhere from these little mini skeins. But next up, let's talk about these gloves. Now, I mentioned several times that I picked up this yarn at Frederick Fiber Fest. I have 2 skeins of this. This is just the one. It is by the Sheepy Shire. This was one of their kind of oopsie skeins from their clearance bin. Bliss MCN, and the colorway is called Ghost with Teal Spots. So I wanted to make the BF something out of this. I intended to make him fingerless gloves with a little flip top mitten situation. And I pulled this out and I was like, okay, I'm casting on your gloves. Let's do some measurements. He has giant bear paw hands, so I had to do some measurements, and I showed him the yarn. I'm like, this is what I'm gonna make your gloves out of. And he's like, that's really light and I'm messy. Do you think that's the best choice for gloves for me? And quite honestly, I hadn't thought about that prior, but he's right. This is way too light and it would probably get destroyed. It's a very pale gray and it has these black and teal speckles in it. So I went to my yarn stash. I do have a lot of DK weight yarn because that's just my favorite base, generally speaking. And I had some that I had previously dyed, and I pulled that out and I said, okay, I showed him like 6 different colors. Which one of these do you want your gloves to be made out of? And he narrowed it down to 2, a blue and a green. And then he's like, well, I can't really decide, you pick. So what we did instead is I put them on the floor and I let our little Yorkie Marcus pick the color. And if I can find, I think I did a video of that. If I can find it, I'll insert it here. But Marcus and his infinite wisdom and his enjoyment of colors, he picked out this green. It's like a kind of dark olivey green. And when I dyed this, it was originally a very light green. And I didn't really like the tone of it. It was kind of like a dusty kind of green. I didn't love it, so I over dyed it with a darker kind of avocado. And I really like how this turned out. So this is what Marcus the dog picked for the gloves, and BF seems happier with these as the color. So I have one done so far, and the pattern that I'm using is called Clive, and it's by Sue Howarth, and it features a ribbed section here for the thumb and the thumb gusset, and I felt like that would work better because, like I said, he's got giant bear paw hands. This is, I'm pretty sure, the extra large. Maybe it only goes up to large. It's the largest size in the pattern. And the pattern is actually for full finger gloves. Now, he wanted fingerless gloves, but with the actual finger holes, not just the open cuff situation. And I'm gonna have to figure out how to do the flip top. I may just pull that from a different pattern when I get there. But all in all, this pattern, it was a little oddly worded and it was a little confusing to me how they were saying to pick up for the fingers themselves. And by the way, these are very imperfect. You can see exactly where I did those pickups and added the stitches. It is not that neat and perfect, but for my first time doing a fingered glove, I'm pretty happy with this. But the pattern, and it is a paid pattern, it was just very kind of confusing. And I went back through, again, people who add notes to your Ravelry pages, thank you so much. I ended up going back through some Ravelry, existing Ravelry project pages to see what people said. And someone had in their notes a clearer way to do these pickups. But aside from being fiddly and aside from not really understanding what the pattern said, once I understood and actually doing it, it's not hard. Like, it's not difficult at all. You're basically just picking up stitches and then adding a couple, just like you would do for a sleeve. But all in all, it wasn't terribly hard. It's not something I want to do every day in my knitting life, but it's not hard. But they fit pretty well. He did mention he would have liked a tighter gauge. These are knit on a US 6 for this part and then a 3 for the cuff. And if I make these again, if I make him another pair, I may probably go down a needle or two size just to make it a tighter gauge. But there's the one glove so far. Again, I need to figure out how to do this flip top situation that he wants. And then I have started the second glove already. I'll do the little flippy top thing last. But this one, I have the thumb on hold, and then you come back and pick that up. And then I think I still need to do a few more rows here in the actual hand part before I get to the fingers. I did add a couple extra rows just because, again, his hands are quite large and I want to make sure that they fit him okay. And then, of course, as I was going along, I kept making him try them on. He's tried these gloves on probably at least 20 times at this point. So there those are. These are the Clive gloves by Sue Haworth. And then next up, I haven't had socks on the needles for, I think, since February, so well over a month. And I went digging through. This is my sock basket of yarns that I pulled out in one of my Knitmas videos. I went through and I pulled out what I was considering Christmas-ish sock yarn. Some of them have nothing to do with Christmas and I just threw them in there. But for the socks that I want to make this year, I'm prioritizing using this stash here. So I went through that bin and I pulled out a skein that has been in my stash forever. Like probably at least 6 or 7 years. And what I pulled out is this skein of self-striping from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. And I don't have the tag with me, but I knew this was pretty old because it's one of her old tags. But I think I posted a picture of it on Instagram. I'm also Karcher Makes on Instagram if you want to follow me there. But if you want to see the vintage tag, you can take a look at it there. But this is the colorway Holidays. And I'm pretty sure this is considered her bounce base, which is, let me look at my notes. I don't think I even have this one written down yet in my notes. Oh no, I do. Yeah, this is the bounce base, which is 80/20 superwash merino nylon. And I have very tiny cuff and the start of this. Now the cuff that I used is leftovers from cesium yarn. This is the colorway Quit Bugging Me. I picked this up probably a couple years ago at Frederick Fiber Fest or Yarn Centric, one or the other. They go to both usually. So I used that for the cuff, and then I just started the striping sequence. And it looks like the way this is going to work up is a red stripe, a wide kind of confetti stripe, and then a green, and then it repeats that. That's what I think is happening here. And I just think that is so fun. I love the look of those confetti stripes. Those are everything. I love it. So these are my purse socks, as I call them. These get put in this bag by Shannon's Fun Bags, the little possum. Possum Town Pike is adjacent to Frederick, Maryland. And Shannon made these and sold them with cesium last year at Yarn Centric. I love this bag so much. So those are my current work in progress socks, and these aren't really a priority, as you can see. They've barely even got anything started on them. So I just work on those when I'm out and about, which quite frankly these days isn't often. I've become quite the homebody, and it's very rare that I leave the house these days. Okay, next up. Now, with all the whips that I have going on, I really had no business casting on another garment, but here we are. I did it anyway because Charm City Unicorns is having a tea and tanks make along in time for Yarn Centric. So between March and May 1st, you make a tea, you make a tank. They have Zooms where we chit chat. The first one was last Saturday and I wasn't able to make it. I was sad I couldn't make it, but there's another one planned for, I believe, April 11th. But anyway, it's a make along. You make a tea, you make a tank, you submit it. They probably will have prizes, I guess. But they're also doing a meetup at Yarn Centric on May 1st. I believe it is at 1:30 on the patio. I'll correct it below if that's incorrect. It's either 1 or 1:30, but I'm pretty sure it's 1:30 on the patio there. So I went through my stash yarn. Again, 2026 is the year of stash. Like, I need to go through and use this yarn. So I pulled out what I bought last year at Yarn Centric from Super Glow Fiber. And it is this. This is from her Hollow series. And look at this tag. Can we just stop for a second? Like, the yarn is beautiful. I love it. But look at this tag and the branding. It is phenomenal. It is gorgeous. It is everything. So, I picked this up. This is the colorway called Bubble Veil, and it's on the silk sock base, which is 50% silk, 50% merino. And I wish you could feel this. It is so soft and it is very shiny. I'm not sure the camera is really going to pick up how shiny the silk is in this. But obviously I wanted to use this, and I had 2 skeins of it, and this is fingering weight. It's, again, sock base, fingering weight, 437 yards. So I can usually get a tee out of 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn. So I went through and I thought I had the pattern that I wanted to make, which was a crochet pattern, the Ama tee. And then, before I even started that, Tori Yu comes out with this new tee pattern called the Prospect Tee. And it is gorgeous. I love the fact that it has these like garter stripes that add a little bit of texture to it. And I just said, you know what? Forget the crochet one. I'm going to make this Prospect Tee by Tori Yu. So I cast that on probably 2 weeks ago, and I haven't really worked on it since then because I'm really trying to prioritize the bubble cardigan and getting that off the needles. But I do have a good bit of progress here, I think, considering I only worked on it for like 2 days. And it is knit from the top down, starting at the back, and it has lovely short rows, which to me are really necessary for a tee especially. Like, I don't want it riding down in the back. I want the back to be a little higher than the front, just so it has the structure of the fit. But look how this silk yarn is knitting up. It is just beautiful. And I apologize for the changing lighting. I rely on natural lighting, so the sun keeps going out behind the clouds. But in any case, look how pretty this is. And it is a kind of lavender purple with pink and blue and green little speckles. And I just think that is stunning. And this is gonna be a really pretty tee to wear for the spring and then even into the summer. I mean, with this silk, it's really gonna help keep the body cool. So there is that. And again, that's the Prospect Tee by Tori Yu. So as far as the knitting whips go, that's pretty much all of the active ones. I have other whips. I don't consider them to be active unless I'm actually currently working on them in my rotation. I have a couple other projects that, I'll get to them when I get to them. But I did start another project, and it's a sewing project. So I know that most of you are primarily here for the knitting, but I do want to start sharing some of the other things that I work on in this forum, and I will try to always kind of put it at the end. That way, if you're not interested, you don't have to stick around for it. But I do want to share this cute little project I've been working on, and if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen some bits and pieces of this. So when I have 2 Yorkies, and when they go to the groomers, they each come home with a bandana. And I say bandana, it's a triangle cut with pinking shears out of fabric, and it's probably cheap fabric because, again, they're not gonna use super expensive fabric for it. But we've accumulated so many of these little bandanas, and I'm not throwing them away because they're perfectly good fabric. So I've just been saving them up, and it finally got to a point where I kind of thought to myself, you know, this is no different than fabric scraps like stash. Use these for something. And I decided to start a blanket, a quilt for the dogs out of these little bits and pieces of the bandanas. And I'm making these little tiny squares. These are, I think, 4.5 inches square, 4 inch. These are 4 inches square. And I just cut the little bandana up to fit this, and I use other fabrics from my stash. I like collecting scraps, I like collecting charm packs, and those are really perfect for what I'm doing here. So this is called an economy block. I'm doing half of it economy blocks, and then I'm doing half of them in a log cabin. So this is a log cabin block. This is an economy block. So basically this is a square and a square with an extra round of the triangles on it. And then this is just the little strips around the initial squares. And I am very much a novice sewer. I am not an expert by any means. And what I found is on Fat Quarter Shop, they have these little paper packs of foundation paper. And what foundation paper does, and I'll just rip one out here to show you. What foundation paper is, it's very lightweight paper, and hopefully you can see the numbers on there. So you add your fabric to the back of this. And if you guys are interested in seeing this live in action, I can show you that. But you add the fabric to this, and I glue down the first one, and then you add the little bits and pieces by the numbers. It's kind of like quilt by number. And the paper really holds the fabric stable, especially with triangles that are cut on the bias. And if you know anything about fabric, bias cut fabric is very stretchy, and what you don't want in a quilt is stretch, because then your blocks aren't going to be perfect. These little points of these triangles and squares will not line up if you kind of stretch them out. So the paper helps keep that fabric from stretching, and the blocks just turn out perfectly. Look at those points. I could never get this without using foundation paper. So I've become quite obsessed with this. I have so many of these squares now. And again, I'm just mixing and matching the little bandanas with other kind of fabric scraps from my collection, charm packs, whatever. And look at this one. This one's kind of appropriate since we just had St. Patrick's Day not that long ago. But I just think these are so cute. And some of them also have batiks. Like, this was nice fabric to be on a dog bandana. I thought, the batiks. And then they usually get seasonal ones. So a lot of these are kind of themed for the holidays. This one with the little winter dogs. They got this some year near Christmas when they went. And then, you know, Valentine's Day, she gives them little heart ones. And again, in the winter, this one's little snowman. And as I was doing the log cabin blocks, I first started with doing like the traditional log cabin where you have the tiny squares to start and then you do the strips around that. But then I was thinking, you know, I can just kind of change that up and make a bigger square instead. So I started cutting bigger for the bigger prints, like this one where the dog is a little bigger and he couldn't fit in that tiny little square. I just made the square bigger and then worked around that, still using the paper. And they just come out so cute. This one is all my own fabric. I have a bunch of Tula Pink fabric and I was like, you know what? Let me add a little cat to the dog's little quilt. They would enjoy that. Here's another one with a cat that's Tula Pink. So yeah, these work up fairly quickly. I can usually do maybe 3 in an hour, which I don't know. That seems like it takes a lot of time, but that's quick for me at least. Little mushrooms. But that's been really fun to work on. It gives me a different kind of creative outlet. Gives me something different when I'm not really in the mood to knit. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing. Making many squares. Now, I don't know how big this quilt's gonna be. I'm gonna have to, once I get, I still need more of the log cabin ones to even out the quantities between the log cabin and then the economy blocks. So once I get a few more of those, I'm just gonna do like a sample layout to see how big it is so far. Obviously, they're 2 Yorkies. It doesn't need to be that large, but I want to see how big it is so that I can start planning for if I want to do sashing around each square. Do I just want to put a border on it? And then I need to plan for what the backing fabric is going to be. I'm probably going to just do traditional fabric. I know that minky, which is that like kind of fleecy fabric, is really popular right now for backing quilts. That might be outside of my skill set to work with right now because again, that minky fabric is very stretchy and I don't know if I can handle that. So that is another work in progress that's ongoing. I do have a spinning project that is on the wheel, but I just haven't had the chance to really work on that. I've been totally distracted by all of these other things. So I do have a spinning project. I would really like to get that off the needle before Maryland Sheep and Wool because I'm thinking about buying an e-spinner. I've budgeted for one. I really want to see them in person before I commit. I did, and the one that I'm looking at is a dataless starling. So I did put my name in the queue, and the way they work is they don't really sell them. You have to add your name to a queue. They'll confirm with you once they're ready to produce your specific wheel. You pick the colors that you want, and then it takes 3 to 6 months to basically get to your spot in the queue so that they'll build the machine, and obviously you can buy it at that point. But from what I understand, they do sell certain ones at festivals. So first thing on my list for Maryland Sheep and Wool, which is the first full weekend in May, is to check out the Daedalus Spinning Wheels booth, see what they have in person, and then if they have a color that I like, I may just end up buying it at the festival and taking my name out of the queue. I don't know. We shall see, but that may be coming. For Tour de Fleece this year, I want to spin for a sweater, and I'm pretty sure the sweater that I want to make is the Traveler hoodie by Andrea Mowry, but I would really love to be able to use the e-spinner for that. So I'm hoping all the timing and stuff works out for that. But I'm really excited to start that project. So at some point, I really need to get my spin off my current wheel so that I can just be ready for Tour de Fleece when the time comes. So I just mentioned a couple events that are coming up. It feels like a long time away, but it'll be here before we know it. It's barely over a month away at this point. So again, Yarn Centric is May 1st at the Arc in Frederick. And pro tip, there's more than one place called the Arc in Frederick. One is an office building and then one is the actual event space. Learn from my fail, put in the actual address if you're using GPS, because the first year I went, I ended up at their office building and I was like, nobody's here. This is weird. So do that. And then obviously the first full weekend in May. So May 2nd, 3rd, I believe the dates are, Maryland Sheep and Wool. I will absolutely be there. I don't know yet if I'm going on Saturday or Sunday. That is always a game time decision for me based on the weather. I'm sure if you are Maryland Sheep and Wool adjacent or attended last year, you heard about the storm that blew in the afternoon, and I would really like to avoid being caught up in stuff like that. So we'll see what day I end up going. Might be Saturday, might be Sunday. I usually just go one day though. I've never gone both days of the weekend. So in other events, Knit for Food is coming up in a couple weeks. So April 11th, Knit for Food, sponsored by Laura Nelkin. I did join again this year. I did not join a team this year. Last year I did Nitty Natty's team. I just didn't bother joining a team this year. I didn't really get anything out of that experience that was special. So I just signed up myself. And then what Knit for Food is it is a charity event. 100% of the proceeds go to 4 different charities that are all themed around food-based help for people. So Feeding America, World Central Kitchen, No Kid Hungry, and Meals on Wheels. The money gets split evenly between these 4 charities. And the day of the event, if you raise at least $100, you get access to all the Zooms. And the way it worked last year, and I don't know if they do this every year, last year was the only year I've done it, they brought in folks from each charity to talk about the charity, where the money is going, what they support, how they support the communities. And I thought that was the best part of the event. I mean, yeah, knitting for 12 hours, that was amazing. But hearing from the charities and how important the money being raised is to them, I think was really the most important part of the event. And then they also have, like last year, again, I can only go based on prior experience. So last year they had someone come in and do various knitting, PT, knitting stretches, how to stretch your hands, stuff like that. And then they had like a game night where it was like kind of like Jeopardy, and there was like trivia about knitting, and that was really fun too. Last year they ended up raising over $500,000, and that is not an insignificant amount of money. That is huge, and I know those charities really appreciated the support. So given what's going on in the world today, I feel like this is important and I wanted to be a part of it again. I will drop a link below if you want to join. If you would rather just donate money and you don't want to join, that's okay too. Or if you just want to share the information out just to get the word out, that would be great too. But I'm hoping that they're able to beat the $500,000 that they raised last year, and let's get that up a little higher. Let's see if we can do it. So in future videos here, I may end up doing an update on my knitting journal. Everyone seemed to really like the video I did about getting this set up, and now that I've had a quarter, so 3 full months of using it, again, just refining what works, what doesn't, I think it would be fun to go through and show how I've been using it, how I've been tracking it, can give a little update to my stash challenge that I've been participating with Mariah Knits on. Spoiler alert, people are doing a lot better than me on getting yards and grams completed, but I've done a really good job of pulling from stash, so I'm still considering it a win. But I may end up doing like a little update video, just a quick little short one about all the updates to my knitting journal in case you're interested. So be sure to subscribe if you're interested in that, and then you'll get the link when the video pops up. So that is it for the making stuff. Now we can just talk a little bit about life stuff. It's spring, and at least today it's 30 degrees outside again, and I'm ready for warm weather. We are now in what I call winter 3, third winter, and the weather's been a tease. One day it's 80 degrees, the next day it's 25 and snowing. So I'm just really ready for it to be nice, 65 degrees, mild weather, so that we can get out and enjoy the outside. I'm kind of sick of being stuck in the house. So last week it was one of those nice days, and we spent some time cleaning up the yard, getting the garden ready. I have a little raised bed garden that has a net over the top to keep the animals out of it, which is so important here. The deer just decimate my garden. So I'm planning this year to do tomatoes, peppers, and beans in there. Maybe a couple other things. It depends on what the garden center has when I'm ready to go and get plants to plant. But we also want to do a new strawberry bed this year. We used to have one in our flower bed that just took over everything, and we needed to end up pulling it out because they just got too crazy. And then this year, I think for the flower beds, I want to do zinnias, and I want to do marigolds in the one in the back, because we have these rabbits, and I guess they have nothing to eat anywhere else, and they just mow down all of my flower beds. So I'm trying to find plants that they will not eat. I read that they don't like salvia, so I planted salvia last year. These rabbits didn't care. They sheared them off at the ground. So that's going to be a little adventure for us here this spring, is just finding things that the rabbits will not bother. I've tried all the liquid fence sprays, powder stuff. Nothing works. These rabbits are like little zombie rabbits. They just want to eat, and they don't care. And then today we went out to the local big box garden store to pick up a few things, and they had these grow your own mushroom kits. So we're going to try to grow our own mushrooms. I have never done that before. I don't even know what it entails. All I know is it's a little kit and it requires a drill. We're going to find out. So really looking forward to that. We got shiitake mushrooms for that, and at least at my grocery store, shiitake mushrooms are really expensive. Like just a few handful chopped up is like $5, and I think the kit was like $20. So should be a more cost-effective way for that. But aside from that, still just working on organizing my space in this room. This couch is going to be going away, and at that point I will be able to possibly rearrange some furniture in here to get a standard spot to do these videos. I know you've seen me in many different spots in this room, and I would just like to get a set spot to sit, get it set up, and not have to continually move all of the equipment around, just to remove that barrier. Because that's the other thing, right? I want to do these videos because I enjoy them and because you enjoy them. I don't want it to feel like work, and when I have to constantly maneuver and change and move things around, that just takes time, and then it makes me not want to do it. And I do want to do this, so I'm gonna work on that here in the next probably couple weeks. But first things first is I gotta get rid of this couch. We may be giving it to my boyfriend's daughter. She just bought her first townhouse, and we may end up giving it to her, or if not, I will probably end up just donating it because it's in really good shape. And this is it's like a slip cover on it, so it's actually brown underneath, and somebody can get some good use out of it. But that's also on my list of things to do, is to get this space prepped and less worky, more creative is the goal. And then maybe at some point once I get everything set up and to the point where I feel like it's organized enough, maybe I can do just like a little craft room tour and talk a little bit about how I organize my scraps, my yarn stash, my fiber, and all of that stuff. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Come back for more. Would love to see you again. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like if you enjoyed this, and until next time, happy making!